Hi, I'm Anthony from bestbluesguitarlessonsonline.com. In this video we'll explore the secret speed and stamina tricks that the pros use to change chords faster. And those little things can go a long way in your own chord switching endeavors. So a lot of times when we're looking at chords, we have the feeling that we need to learn them finger by finger, so to speak. But there are a lot of things we can do to make those changes faster that are really easy to implement in your playing, and I'll go over each one of them here quickly. Basically, there are three main things you can look at first that form the basic of these speed and stamina tricks. So the first thing we can do, for example, if we're playing over here F major 7 chord, here higher on the neck of the guitar, this will sound pretty obvious, but a lot of times when we go towards the same chord over here, which is for example the case in Gigi Cale's songs Magnolia, he's playing F major 7 to C major 7 progression, is that we're lifting one or more fingers to do that change. And so this sounds obvious, but we will use this exercise later on to go to more advanced stamina and speed building tricks when talking about chord change. So for here, the first thing to understand is that we're going to shift between those chords here without lifting the fingers, but still the fingers are not pressing down, so we don't want to press down on the strings while making this change, but we want to have the fingers remain into light contact with the string. And in this way we remain in control where each finger is during or move from one chord to the next, but it can really happen, it can speed up or change, because we don't have the excessive tension working against us, what would be the case if we're pressing down on the string, but we don't also lose contact from the string, because if we would lift one or more fingers during that change, it would be harder to have that change happening fast. And I know this sounds obvious, but sometimes we have chords where we can implement the same thinking, the same tactic here, but it's not so obvious that we have the same fingers on each string. And even though if you already have this down in step 3, because this is the second step to build the speed and stamina in your chord switches, if you have already step 2 down, you will need this thinking for step 3. So here we're gonna play the C major 7 to the F sharp minor 7 flat 5 chord, also known as half diminished chord. So it is F sharp half diminished. So this chord switch also features the same strings, so our fingers remain on the same string, but we need to move our index finger one fret more towards the right if you're right-handed, so one fret higher on the neck of the guitar. And instead of doing this and then changing the chord, we're gonna move this index finger while our string are riding on this imaginative train rail. Like the fingers stay in touch with the strings at all times, because they're basically gonna land on the same string. And this might sound again obvious, but a lot of times people just replay their fingerings. So this is harder to build speed on, because if we make sure that the fingers stay into contact with the string at all times, we can change between chords really quickly. And as I explained before, even though if you have this way of thinking down, you might have never thought about the third thing that's important here to build the speed and stamina, and this is this. So here we're playing the C major 7 again, but now we're going to change to the D flat diminished 7 chord. And now our fingers need to move from strings. The important thing here at first is that your fingers are able to do it in one motion. So the index finger goes towards the G string, and the middle finger goes towards the A string, but this needs to happen at the same time. So most people are able to do this. If you aren't able to do this, this needs training. You need to practice this to have this motion happen at the same time, because otherwise it will be really hard to build speed if you first do this and then this. So it needs to happen at this time. So you can practice it just by doing this. But again, like, here are things that may sound obvious to you, but what most people don't really think about is the same way of thinking as changing to a chord where the fingerings stay on the same string can be applied if we change strings by really hovering over the string. So instead of lifting the fingers and then putting them down on the chord again, what we're going to do with this chord change now is that the fingers, they just hover over the string, so they can remain into contact a little bit with the strings, or you can just hover over the strings, but you stay really closely to the strings. And if you do so, instead of that the chord change happens in this way, now we have this. So it's much more efficient to do it in this way. And if you apply this way of thinking, these 3 tips, then you will see that there's enormous speed that can be gained from that way of thinking. So for example, here I'm changing between chords from A minor 11 to G sharp 7 flat 9, and then I'm basically doing the same chord change over here from the G to the F sharp, because I don't even have to lift my fingers over here. And of course there's tremendous speed if you apply this, so you need to think about the train riding analogy here. So the fingers stay on the same string. And then I change to the F major 7 chord, and a lot of people would change from this F sharp 7 flat 5 chord to the F major 7 chord while lifting their fingers. But as you can see here, we don't have to lift our fingers on the 2 middle strings. We just need to place them here on the 2nd fret. So that's the pinky finger. So we need to just do this. And then of course we need to be able to change those fingers really efficiently by just hovering them over the strings. So hope you like this video. If you do so, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. And also, if you want to check out the website at bestbluesguitarlessonsonline.com, there are plenty of free downloadable resources to be found there, like a fully free blues guitar ebook.